Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Surrounding the Dragon. I'm Dr. Sara Azadorian, and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, and that is alignment. And this is one of the things that I think is a huge contributor to consistent chronic lingering pain and injuries. And of course, I'm going to take a slightly different approach to this topic, and I'm really excited about it. So let's dive in. So the first thing I'm going to say, when I say the word alignment, I am not at all talking about your physical body. I'm not talking about your physical structure. I'm not talking about your bones, your spine, or your hips, or the way that they line up relative to each other. I'm not talking about your structure. The alignment that I am talking about is more behavioral in nature. I want to know more about what you're doing on a regular basis, how you're doing it, and whether or not it aligns with the things that matter the most in your life. Alignment is all about calling your attention back into your body and partnering with your body so that you can get the most out of it for as long as you can. But if you're consistently operating at capacities that are out of alignment with what matters most to you, then your body's going to let you know by showing up with things like pain, with lingering tension, with repetitive injuries, with things like difficulty sleeping at night, with difficulty hitting your goals, with mood swings, with stress and anger and anxiety. These are all ways that your body lets you know that something's out of alignment, something's not working right. My needs are not being met in some capacity. And a lot of times our attention just goes so far outside of our body that we don't even consider what our body is saying. So alignment, a big component of finding alignment with what matters most, is your ability to call your attention back into yourself, to self-reflect on what you're doing. And in order to do that, we have to first understand what matters most to us. So this is where we start. When our actions, our thoughts, and our behaviors are consistently out of alignment with what matters most, the body will start talking to us. And if you are disconnected from your body and you're not listening to what your body has to say, well, you're going to end up with some chronic lingering issues that seemingly have no solution. But really, all you have to do is pull your attention back into your body, partner with it by listening to what it has to say, and then modifying what you're doing so that it does align with what matters most. A lot of you will get better instantly if you just get in alignment. So, does that sound good? It's really that simple. But if you think about it, this simplicity is incredibly difficult to do. Because again, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of energy and a lot of detachment from the ego to start turning around and looking within for your solutions. Start looking for ways that you might be getting in your own way, right? Start looking for ways that you might be contributing to your own issues. Ouch. That's okay. We all do it. I do it too. I've done it. I didn't get to this point in my life and my career by always operating in alignment. There's going to be more podcasts, I'm sure, about that and how I got here. But for now, you can just maybe take my word for it that I didn't get to where I'm at this stage in my life by everything being easy and by always listening to my body. In fact, the reason I'm starting this podcast is because I never had anyone that taught me how to listen to my body and how to partner with it. I had a lot of people tell me, hey, listen to your body, or tell me, listen to your intuition. But I had no friggin' clue of how to actually do that. I had to figure that out on my own. And it's been a wild friggin' ride, I can tell you that. But here I am. Now that I've learned the lesson, now I am in a position where I can share this with my patients and help them get back into alignment by taking a look at their stuff. And it starts with the 7 categories, I would say, that make up the things that matter most. There's 7 things. This is where we have to start so that we have something solid to align with. These 7 things will give us kind of a benchmark in the categories of movement, nutrition, recovery to align with. So let's dive into these 7 things, these things that matter most. And if you have a pen or a notebook or something, write these down, because you might want to take some time to reflect on this later. So the first thing we need to know and get clarity on over what matters most is your body's needs. What does your body need to be healthy and functional? That's number 1. Number 2 is a little bit more challenging, but take a look at your skills and your abilities. What are you capable of doing right here and right now in terms of like mobility, in terms of stability, motor control, coordination? Do you even have the mobility requirements met so that you can do things like conventional deadlifts and loaded back squats and barbell snatches? Do you even meet the mobility prerequisites for those moves in your ankle, in your hips and your pelvis, in your thoracic spine, in your shoulders? Like, these big moves require a fair amount of mobility and coordination and stability too. So where are your skills at, and how do you know? Have you ever been assessed? We'll come back to this. This is a big one. But don't overlook this and be real with yourself. Number 3 is very important, and it's all about your goals and your outcomes, right? What are we training for? What are we trying to accomplish? There's a million ways we can get to a certain result, but if we don't know where we're going, what are we doing? Right? So if you're, so what are you training for? Are you training just to be healthy and strong, keep your immune system up? Or are you more training for something specific for an athletic event, right? Do you need strength and power? Do you need endurance? Do you need agility? Like, what is it exactly that you're training for? Your desired outcomes and your goals matter. And we got to get clear on them so that we know how to get there, so that we can make a plan on how to get there. Now, number 4, this is where we start to surround the dragon a little bit. And this is where we start to consider more the emotional and the spiritual bodies. Number 4 is all about your core values. Let that sink in for a second. What do you believe in? What are you all about? Get clear on these. Number 5 kind of goes right along with the core values, and I put integrity in number 5. What is your interpretation and your expression of integrity? It's kind of a big one. Number 6, also another important one, intent goes here. What is your intent? And oftentimes, intent sometimes will get confused with goals and desired outcomes. Intent is not a goal. Intent is not a desired outcome, right? Intent is the way that you reach the goal or desired outcome. So, for example, if your goal is to move better with less pain, your intent might be something like having the ability and the practice of pulling your attention back into your body by listening to your body. See? So you'll achieve that goal of pain-less movement by the intent of listening to what your body is telling you. Very important intent with everything that you're doing. Very applicable to a lot of areas of your life too. And then number 7, I typically just leave this open. This is my quote other category, right? Because we're all different. We all have different things that matter to us. And this open category leaves room for the unknown on every level, the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual. So these are the things that make up what matters most. Get clarity on what these things are. Then we can dive into the whole anatomy of alignment to begin with. There's 3 questions, right? The anatomy of alignment, the way that we find alignment, is by asking, what are we doing? We zoom out. What are we doing on a regular basis? No judgment. Just take an audit in the categories of movement, nutrition, recovery. First, with the perspective of the physical body, what are we doing? Take an audit. Number 2, why are we doing it? What purpose is it serving? And number 3, is what we're doing and why we're doing it in alignment with that list of what matters most? Sounds simple, right? But it is there is a huge challenge in this type of simplicity. Because once we start zooming out and we take a look at what we're actually doing on a regular basis and compare it to what we actually are what we're trying to accomplish, we might start to find some places where we're falling short. And this is where the challenge comes in. This is where simplicity gets really freaking hard. So if you're someone that is struggling with lingering pain that you just can't get rid of, chronic repetitive injuries, start thinking about your alignment. Start thinking about your thoughts, your actions, your behaviors, and what you're doing, why you're doing it, and whether or not it aligns with the things that matter most in all of those 7 categories that I mentioned. You know, do you have the ability? Do you have the skills right now to be doing the big lifts that you might be doing in the gym? Or if you're a fitness professional or a clinician, somebody that writes programs for clients or patients, this is applicable to you too. What are you programming? Why are you programming it? And does it align with what your clients need the most? Right? Does it align with your clients' needs, your clients' skills and abilities? And how do you know? Have you assessed them? Have you put them through a movement screen? Do you know what their skills are? Right? So whether you're looking at this from the perspective of an active adult or from the perspective of a professional, the anatomy questions of alignment will serve you in a very powerful way. You just have to be willing to do the work. You have to be willing to call that attention back into your body and do the challenging work of simplicity. So that's alignment. Not at all talking about your structure. It's all in your behaviors, all in your mindset. And what you might find by going through this exercise and this self-reflection, that you might find a few layers of things that might be contributing to all of your issues. And I'm not just talking about physical issues, physical pain, physical injuries. From the emotional and the spiritual perspective, you know, we can apply these questions to things like your relationships, your business, right? What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Does it align with what matters most? And when you take the time to reflect on these things and you assess them, well, then you can modify what you're actually doing. So if what you're doing and why you're doing it doesn't align, well, you have the power to make a change. You have the ability to do things differently. You know, if you're somebody that's constantly just doing the most advanced variations of the most difficult movements on the planet, well, you have the ability to choose a different variation, but still maintain your desired outcomes and your goals of getting strong or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. So you can modify. You have the choice to change. There's a million ways to get to where you want to go. And you don't always have to choose the path of most resistance. I had to learn that lesson the hard way. And that's going to be a whole podcast all on its own. So I hope you stick around for that. But alignment, it reaches far beyond the physical body. It reaches into everything that you're doing. If you've ever heard that saying, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Yeah, it's very true. So these questions of how to get into alignment, this is the type of self-reflective work that will serve you in all 3 of your bodies. But we start with the physical. It's the lowest barrier to entry. You start to establish the skill and you practice the skill of alignment just by taking a look at what you're doing. Start with the gym. Listen to your body, you know? Step away from the straight bar, get into trap bar for a little bit, and put some of your energy and some of your focus on doing some mobility work. Right? Open up your spine. Yeah? Or wherever your restrictions are. Starting with the physical body will help you establish and practice this skill of alignment. You will get better when you look at your movements, your nutrition, your recovery, and all the strategies that fall within there, all your behaviors that fall within those categories. This is where we establish and practice alignment. And once you get really good at it, then we can start strengthening. We can start strengthening that skill of alignment by now exploring those categories from the perspective of the emotional and spiritual bodies. Because that's a little bit more challenging, don't you think? The physical body we can see. We can feel it. We can touch it. There's a knowing there. There's a sense of safety there. Whereas when we start diving into the emotional and the spiritual bodies, well, those are unseen. It's the unknown. It's the dark. It's the shadow. And how many of you were afraid of the dark when you were a kid? So how easy is it to dive into the emotional and spiritual bodies? Not easy. So make it easy on yourself. Start using the skill of alignment. Start building the skill of alignment with your physical behaviors. Start with your movement. Start with your nutrition and your recovery strategies. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Does it align? Start practicing repetitively. Build that skill of alignment. Then what you might notice is that the emotional and spiritual bodies just kind of start to show up. You start to approach your emotional and spiritual bodies without even trying. It just starts to happen. We call that flow. So alignment. It's not about your structure. It's all about your behaviors, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and whether or not it aligns with the things that matter most. So I hope this was helpful for you. I hope this inspired you to think a little bit differently about what you're doing on a regular basis and how you might actually be contributing to your own issues. It's okay. We all do it, myself included. So if this was helpful for you, if this was intriguing or inspiring in some way, hit the like button, leave me a review, share it with somebody that you think might need to hear it. And while you're at it, maybe hit the subscribe button, either on YouTube, on Spotify, or on Apple to stay in touch and stay up to date on these episodes as I release them. So thanks for being here, you guys. Until next time, thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.